What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Trail Theory Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Alex.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Pfeiffer.
Welcome back to another lovely episode of the Trail Theory Podcast. Tonight we are going to talk about and revisit a topic that we have already spoken about that has gotten numerous call-outs from listeners and folks who follow along on the internet that they've enjoyed this episode. So we are going to do another episode on psychology and kind of a little bit more of the deeper side of feelings and emotions and the why behind backpacking. Why you go out, why you want to go out and do all the things that are backpacking. And yeah, I think with that, we'll open the table to feelings, thoughts and feelings and emotions, all the good things.
Big old kumbaya moment for all of us. No, I like talking about this.
Should we keep holding hands?
I'm down.
Listeners don't know we hold hands through every episode.
Every episode.
Please.
Once it's on video, you'll all know. No, I like talking about this because it's not to like intentionally get sappy about stuff or anything, but it is cool to think and reflect on the why and what like we get out of going out, because it's not just because we think it's cool and it's not just because we're friends.
It is.
There's a very. It's and definitely. It's definitely those things, but it goes a lot further than that. And the amount of like accomplishment and satisfaction and like the sort of the tangible stuff is really cool, but that non-tangible internal, like you almost can't even explain kind of the value you get out of it as a person. And that's cool to kind of dive deep into and like introspective sort of reflection on that, which is cool.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
But
yeah, I love the subject. I love talking about it because, like, we talk about backpacking every week. We release full hour-long episodes talking about why we love it and why we love the gear and all these different things. But it's good to take a beat and not talk always about the gear and the preparation and the food and the shit and all that other stuff we talk about.
We were going to poop.
That's true.
Yeah, and all the regular things, the circle meet. And kind of just, get introspective and understand truly why we got into it, why we love it, why we continue to love it, and how we're going to, continue to have it be a part of our life.
So let me lead with a question, because we did this last year, probably, actually, I don't know when it was, but it might have been around this time last year. But
not quite.
Not quite, a little later?
Maybe 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we did this last year, and we talked a lot, and anyone who hasn't listened to that episode should go back and listen, because it was really good. But since then, on trips we've done, like in the last year, on this topic, like what has anything changed for us, or have we gotten anything new or any new sort of revelations about the trips we've done, backpacking that we've done, that is new, I guess, since the last episode?
Massively.
Yeah, I think me too, and that's why I think this is why I wanted to revisit this subject, because I think we all, a year is a decent amount of time to go through things and reevaluate. I think for me, a lot of what I've changed as far as my mindset when it comes to like the outdoors and backpacking is I've started to, this is fun what we do and what we talk about and how we go backpacking. I've thought a lot more about how I'm going to, introduce my family into those things, like whether it's little camping nights here and there, like doing car camping here and there, or like then eventually taking them to national parks, or doing small trips here and there. I definitely have decided to make it a priority and have made it part of my goals. On my list, it's on a timeline, and for the future, and even beyond that. Like I have plans now to, well into my life to try to keep this a priority and be surrounded by the outdoors and fully live outside. Not like as a hermit in
Make
a
it a
cabin,
priority.
but like living in the outdoors.
Are you sure? Because like that's one of my dreams.
Well,
like living off grid would be so intense, so amazing. But no, I completely agree. Is that, and I think part of that for me, like my daughter's 7 now, which is insane because she just turned 7, and I can't believe it. But like she talks about it all the time. Like she wants that to be something that her and I do, and she's old enough to do it now, so it's a thing that we're gonna start doing.
Yeah,
and it's when we link it to like this psychology piece. It's not like for her, it's because she thinks it's fun, right? But I know it's way more than that, and it's what I get out of it, and what I'm gonna get out of it with doing, from doing it with my daughter.
Well, the bonding that you get with it. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And then as my sons get older and doing it there, and then doing it as a family and having my wife there, like everything you just said, Austin. But also knowing that when Sparks was on, she talked about it, that as a kid, it was like a regular thing. They always did that trip, right?
Yeah, part of their
and
life.
that being a thing that my kids are going to be able to look back on and say, "Oh yeah, that was a thing we did. Like I did that with Dad. That was the thing."
Yeah,
and
create
I got
memories.
all I got all this out of it, and that is sort of building her as a person, which is insane because it's like everything we do as fathers, and is doing, whether it's good or bad, we can up and it's like, oh, I hope I didn't just damage you for the rest of your life. It's like
being a parent's hard.
But I mean, I'm excited about that because it's knowing how valuable it is to me, and being able to share that with family is a huge thing.
Yeah, it's funny to me. A couple thoughts come to mind, right? I think as the days go by and the years go by, it becoming a more permanent piece of like my daily life. Certainly the podcast has helped do that, and in encouraging being outside. I was listening to an old episode today, and I remember texting my wife and saying she was listening as well and enjoying it, and we were laughing because it was like, man, we have a trip coming up with our son, and it's like, wow, I didn't think I could get any more excited about this, but I'm re-listening to a podcast episode that I'm a part of and getting more excited about it. and it's I think just making it a woven part of our life, and not necessarily this like secondary part. Like
right.
I want people, not that association with it is certainly a piece of it, but when someone thinks of you as a person, like what's part of your identity, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I like to think that this is certainly a part of it, and I know that the people that know me best know that it is, and
right.
and that's beyond the point, right? And so I read this quote today. I get this email from Pfeiffer. You'll know the guy, and you'll love this. It's a great email. It's the Atomic Habits guy, James Clear. He sends this very brief email. It's called like 321, and it's just kind of food for thought, but it's real bite sized. It's actually the best email that I've ever subscribed to because it's so short. And one of the questions he asked in the email, and kind of posed the question, and it made me think, and I'm really glad that I read it today before the episode, was, what have you felt most joyful this year in doing, and what steps can you take to recreate these conditions? And so this year, I mean, certainly we're off to a calendar year, I guess. I'm thinking last like 12 months.
Right.
And I had a difficult time kind of well, I shouldn't say difficult, but I really wanted to be introspective of this. And I think the thing that I came up with was meaningful time with people I care about, and camping and like being outside. And that's with my family, with you guys. And it just kind of reminded me, it's like, damn, like to pinpoint something you care so deeply about, that, what are those one or two things of your life that really stand out and really make an impact, and this is certainly one of them.
Absolutely.
So it just, I'm glad. I mean, I never, not that I didn't, I didn't go on the first trip expecting for this not to happen, but I guess I'm saying I'm glad it happened. So,
well, right. I mean, that's a cool. It's like the first trip we did, we didn't go into it thinking like this is going to be such a deep and like integral part of my existence in 6 years.
That is true.
But,
I mean, when you think about it, like how often before we set off on the first trip, like how often, or did you guys even think like this is going to be something I'm going to do every year? This is going to be something I'm going to do multiple times a year.
But
like, I don't think I thought about that at all. It was just let's get through this first thing.
I want to pose a weird question. And I mean, I know there's answers to it, but like, it's more hypothetical. I think about our friendship right now, the four of us, and I think about what was our friendship about before we got into this.
Huh.
And I know there's plenty of reasons,
Of course,
and there's
yeah.
things, right? We all have very different interests outside of this as well, and there's music, and there's there's umpteen things, but I don't think there's this like one singular thing.
I agree.
That's
'Cause-
stronger
and it's
than
crazy.
that.
I
Yeah.
had
That's a crazy thought.
different friendship moments with each of you.
Yeah.
This thing kind of became the ultimate. What's the word I'm thinking?
binder?
Of? Kind
The
of the
glue.
binder,
Yeah.
the glue
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it, right?
It's
'Cause, like,
dumbfounding.
we all have been close friends for a long time, so it's not like, oh, this brought us together, but it kind of did in a weird way.
It crystallized it. in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, kind of funny.
Well,
More
it
permanence
kind of
or
brought
whatever.
it
I
kind
don't
of
know.
brought a bunch of different avenues together into like one sort of stream,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like I know Austin from completely different, context than I know Alex, and I've known Alex almost my entire life.
Yeah.
And then same with Brian. So it's like all of that was kind of happening, not in silos. There was crossover in a lot of different ways, but we all came from our friendships developed at different times in different ways, and in kind of this weird web that just happened
Yeah.
to work out. And then it was that all just sort of coalesced or glommed, as Alex would say.
Congealed. Glommed.
It
One of my
glommed
favorite words.
into this.
Thank you for
into
using
this.
it. I'm flattered.
I will say it was a hobby, but it's like into this thing that
It's
we
a
all
lifestyle.
care so
It's
deeply
a
about.
lifestyle.
You can say
Yeah.
lifestyle. I feel
Uh-huh.
like you were about to say lifestyle. It was.
I think. Well,
It
at
is.
the start of it, we weren't going into this like. Austin wasn't sending
True.
that
No,
text
that's
like,
right.
"Oh, I need a lifestyle for
Right.
all of us to be part of." it.
Right.
It's
what is the great,
and even
Yeah.
think about how ingrained it's become in our family lives, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are a couple of our wives are planning a trip right now to go camping,
Yeah.
right? Without us.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, what the like, the part of me wants to be jealous, but I'm also supporting it. But,
Yeah.
and then I think about on the weekends, there's not a text being sent, hey, let's go to the playground and watch the kids, around on the playground. Like, it's, hey, we're going and doing a trail this weekend.
Yeah, we're
Anybody
gonna go on a
interested?
hike.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, that is so profoundly cool.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, it's the community aspect of it, and we've always, I mean, I've certainly preached about that a little bit too. My passion for being with people, and it's just it just kind of resonates time and time again, even with our group, with more people and the people I care spending time about or with. Right, it all kind of circles back to that meaningful timepiece. So when I think about how do we recreate these things? It's that time, and this just gives us time, which is fantastic.
Well, think about it too. Like, we talk about just the four of us, but think about the other people that go backpacking with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I've connected in a serious way with like my brother-in-law Paul over this. And it was just kind of like a, hey, do you want to go backpacking with us? We were looking. It's not like we were looking to recruit people. I was just like, I think that would be a good time, and he would
For
probably
sure.
enjoy it. And now we're like crazy close, and he's close with all you guys now.
Yeah.
yeah,
and
we have friendships with each other's like connections too.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
so funny how that works. And Paul's just one example, because it works the same with like Nick. Like, I didn't know Nick very well, when you guys were roommates in college. But now we're tight. And it's interesting
neat.
how those connections work and how those relationships build around something like this that we care so much about.
Yeah.
We're very lucky in the sense that we have a lot of people that are immediately around us that care about it as much as we do. Because not a lot of people are fortunate like that. They'll go out solo and that kind of thing. And I think, we've all said, would you go out solo? And some of us have said no. Some of us have said, yeah, well, maybe give it a try. But like, you guys are right. Like the bonding that you get with doing these trips together and overcoming diversity and trying to figure things out as you go, it really grows you as a person individually, but it grows our friendship, and it grows in a way that I don't think you would get doing another hobby like this. You wouldn't get it, doing a bowling league or playing in a cornhole league. Like, you wouldn't get that kind of experience.
I agree, and not to say that you can't find those in other activities. Bowling, great example.
That'd be fun. We should do
Twinkle
that.
toes.
But I think the long and the short of it is like the diverse amount of thinking and actions that have to occur on a trip.
Right.
Like nothing is for sure. The trail changes.
Yep.
Your plans change. adversity hits, like
you have to
don't
have each other's back. You need to support each other.
You're right.
I mean, using a bowling league as an example, like, oh, they're out of French fries. Like, dude, that's not adversity. Like, that's a night. That's a night out hanging out with buddies, dude, bowling and drinking beer.
Which is great,
right,
too.
right.
Don't get me wrong.
Right. It has its place.
Do you want to go tomorrow? I mean, yeah, sure. I get it. And I'm not dogging that.
Only if there's bumpers.
I would. Yeah,
but no, what I think what Brian and Alex just said opens something up is that like the activity does matter. And think of any so in corporate life or whatever, think of any like team building exercise when you get those speakers who actually are paid to go up and like bring people together. What's the thing, the things that always they default to if you're going to do a team is how do you problem solve together?
Yeah.
Right.
So we talked about it on the last episode a bit, but when we're out there, the whole thing is solving problems as a team over and over and over and over and over
Working
and over
with each
again.
other.
And it's like we don't go out and we do our own thing and we just happen to be next to each other while we're doing something fun. It's like we're actually acting as a unit. And you go to like a escape room, right? With people, you go in there with people you don't know. By the end of it, you know them. Yeah. Even if you haven't talked, it's like you've worked together on something. And I think that's why what you said, Brian, is like it's bringing us together closer as friends, but just as a unit, because the activity itself is doing that.
I mean, think about it too. I guess I don't want to be so dramatic, but like when we're out there, we're majority of the time in the middle of nowhere, and like
it's a level of trust.
Something bad could happen, and who's to say that it wouldn't ever? But like, I don't want to say someone could die on the trail, but someone could seriously get hurt, and then we would all have to feel comfortable, and I think we all do feel comfortable in relying on each other for something like that to happen.
And we've seen it.
There's a level of trust.
It. Yeah,
we've had injuries on the trail and those types of things.
But
right?
I don't think that's something that you can build without experiencing something like a backpacking thing or like a camping trip or like that kind of thing where you really just like Brian and I when we started rock climbing together, like there is 100% me trusting you with my life, and vice versa. Right. And I feel like we got that. Like all 9 of us that go together on these trips the majority of the time, I feel like I have that same amount of trust that I had in Pfeiffer with me being 80, 90 feet up in the air thinking, does he have me?
Yeah, sure.
I have that with each of you as well because of what we've built throughout the years and through every single trip and through all the different things that we've had to experience together while we're on the trail.
Yeah, and I think it's a good, iron sharpens iron, right? And the reality of that, to me, I think about, relating it to a work scenario. It's like, realistically speaking, and I'll relate it to my kind of world, but, when you get feedback on something you've done, and you like in the moment, the feedback isn't ideal, right? You're kind of like, shit, like we missed the mark a little bit or whatever. Like, maybe you thought it was going to stick a little bit differently, but then through the adversity, and I say this to our team often, it's like, even if something doesn't hit perfectly, that when you get that feedback and you have to kind of work for it, it's going to ultimately be better.
For sure.
And I think that's what I'm relating it to with backpacking is like, even when we hit adversity, in the moment it sucks and it can be challenging.
Yeah.
But when we problem solve and figure it out together, we're immediately closer because of the challenge that we went through together.
See, and
it's incredible.
I'm kind of more of the mindset of like when adversity comes, I'm excited about it because I know how we can
the outcome's
do it.
Going to be good.
All right, I'm excited to work on this.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out because I know
it might be ugly, it might be hard, but
right. And I think subconsciously or consciously, I don't know. We know. I mean, it's like working out a muscle. It's you go through, and you sort of damage yourself a little bit by going through something hard, but at the end of it, you're going to become better.
We're capable of hard things.
Right. And and I think we touched on it a little bit. There was I'm going to forget the word, but that concept of the
biophilia.
No, not that. The one Alex brought up where it's the repairing with gold. And
kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Yeah. So it's that, but it's that, same concept. You're putting yourself in situations that are out of your comfort zone and that are a little bit dangerous, and it's going to push you past your known limit so that your known limit can change. Like you're going to become better.
And your flaws can become beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. your identified flaws at that point. You're not hiding them, but celebrating them.
Yeah.
In the moment.
And
Sure.
leaning into your strengths and improving your weaknesses. Like that's the whole. We're doing that all the time. Like, and we're not even thinking about it, but we're just out there having fun.
And you have to. I mean, there's a vulnerability about being out there, and you talk about trust, right? I mean, you're not. I mean, not saying there. I would identify people. Oh, I'm not going backpacking with this person ever because I don't trust them. But there are some challenges that we face. Yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but
I think that.
There are some. I mean, I know people who've gone on trips with people that are ill prepared, and it's like. I remember telling that person, like, I probably wouldn't have gone on that trip with someone, right? Or like with that person, not because like it's a a detriment to them as a person or like them, but negativity there, but there is a level of preparedness and you talk about trust. I mean, I related even to I went whitewater rafting once and it was fucking crazy. Like we literally thought someone was gonna die.
Yeah,
like some dude was bobbing and it was not good. It was a bad situation. And I'll tell you what, he got out of the raft. The raft tipped. And it was a very unsafe situation. And I remember after the fact, and I went in. It was a bachelor party. Like we weren't. We were very safe. Like the morning of, like no one had been drinking, but. Another raft, like it was very kind of scary. And I remember thinking afterwards, I'm like, shit, had I known this was like a fucking possibility, I never would have done this shit.
With that group of people?
Well, with the group I was with, I had 100% trust.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember after the fact, this was another, like they usually have like 6 or 7 boats or whatever that go together and they're all different groups. But I remember saying to my brother after the fact, and I remember I said, I don't know, I think I would do it again. But I would only do it under the circumstance of knowing and trusting everyone in the boat that I would be in.
Yep.
Because I saw a boat that didn't have that trust.
Yep.
And that's where the problems happened. And it's like, holy shit, this is a scary situation.
Oh, and that's not the same as getting stuck with a rando and going and playing golf. Like
no. I mean, there are safety things that matter with being around people you care about and really do. You talk about, being on a rope, rock climbing. Like there's like. Unconditional trust,
and which is
you just have it or you don't.
And I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because you legit saved me from like busting my skull on rock. And I'll remember that till I die.
Yeah,
it was.
I will too.
You don't remember that until the next time you go. He doesn't save you. And,
but I mean, and that was like. But what's amazing to me, and it's true for the backpacking thing too, is like we didn't walk into that. And have that conversation ahead of time, like, "Oh, I trust you 100% with my life." Like,
I guess
okay,
that's true. Right?
It was unsaid.
Right. It just happens, and then you kind of realize in the moment, like, "Oh yeah, my life is in this person's hands."
Yeah.
Well,
okay, I'm fine with that.
And then you see who people are in those moments, right? You know who you can kind of trust. It does kind of survival instinct does come into play.
Yeah,
and that's really it's.
And part
really
of
amazing.
it's the realization. So it doesn't happen in like a conscious moment, but it's like you. Come to accept like, oh yeah, this Brian does have me. I'm good. And it's like, I knew that all along. I just didn't need to tell myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we move on.
Subconsciously, you know it.
And I think with us too, and when we went on the first trip, is like, we didn't have that conscious thought of everything we're saying right now.
Sure.
But looking back on it, it was never a question.
We were also a bit naive to it.
Yeah.
I remember that first trip going out. I was a little more nervous. Like I didn't have a ton of nerves. I remember thinking like, am I in good enough shape to do this? Right. That was my nervousness, not the safety piece of it.
Right.
And then I think after the fact, I was more spooked about. I don't know, that first night in the tent felt weird.
Bro.
I was a little scared.
Let's talk about it, because I was the same way. I was a little spooked and not even expecting to be, because I've been camping. But there were two noises that were going on.
Man, we were out here in the shit.
And
noises. There's nobody out here.
There was one, the wind was swooshing over the hills, and you can hear it from you can hear it almost like in stereo, like with headphones on, going from one side of the hills to the other.
That was one of the most profound things I've ever heard in my life.
And then there was an owl.
There was an owl
hooting.
Little hootie.
And that was funny.
But what was the
thing?
Also
very cold.
What was the thing that got you though? Because I know exactly what it was that gave me that like sort of uneasiness for a minute before I was able to get to sleep.
For me, it was the rolling wind hills noise, because I realized it just felt so remote.
that's
the
thing.
vastness
Yeah.
for me was
So
it.
it was the sound and the noise. Like none of that was. It was the realization of how remote we
Yeah.
actually were.
Yeah. I remember.
Dude, because you're out there.
Yeah,
you're out there.
I remember thinking to myself, first off, we that was the trip where we jokingly established that could you imagine living out here?
Yeah, right.
Literally on the way to the trailhead, driving through kind of middle of nowhere and like you're in the sticks.
Well,
man. You're nowhere.
a random
You're kind
shack,
of in a town, but you don't have internet access. Like you don't have cell service.
It's quirky. And then, we hike, I don't know, 10 miles that day.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, okay, we already joked about like being in the middle of nowhere town wise. And then we just walk into the woods for 8 miles. We are literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I remember that kind of like thought. And then it's like this wind and it's like, shit, we're in the middle of nowhere. This wind is whipping. And I'll be honest, Pfeiffer, I remember being in the tent with you and I remember literally thinking to myself, well, I'm glad I'm not in this tent alone.
See,
I was solo out in that hill.
I was
cold too.
I felt comfort night one of backpacking.
I was
of
solo.
my life.
I was solo in my tent, but I mean, we were all four in the same spot. We were all in the same area.
Oh, totally.
Hell yeah.
And it's interesting that you all three kind of felt that uneasiness. I didn't have that uneasy feeling, but I think it was because I was with you three. Because I felt like
Got the squad.
We're all in
Yeah.
this together. We got
Yeah.
the squad together.
so I never really had that like
And we
I'm out here with really no protection and nothing going like that. I never had that feeling because you guys were there with me doing it. Whether I was sleeping, by myself or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I felt like I had you guys had my back with it and I wasn't
Yeah.
scared about it.
Well,
we
and I
hadn't
should say
seen
that-
that many people though. at that
Yeah, we
point.
hadn't seen that
It
many
was pretty
people,
like
right.
we didn't
grim.
we didn't see anybody.
Oh, we
during
didn't see
that trip.
anybody that day.
That whole
That
I
first
don't
day.
I don't think the
I
whole
think
trip
we did one
We
day.
saw
didn't
one.
Did we?
I saw like a couple that were day hiking on the last
I don't even
day.
remember.
I do. I just remember feeling really alone
Yeah.
in a very big space, and it was a feeling I never really. It only ever occurred that one trip, that one time, that one
Oh,
night.
yeah.
But I think it was
Never
maybe like
happened
a
again.
collective
It was very
alone,
weird,
right?
yeah.
Like not like I'm alone, more
Yeah.
like we're
Completely.
alone.
We're alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really
Right.
out here. We're really in the middle of nowhere, and we haven't seen a single human.
Yeah.
Like it just was a weird feeling.
And just how foreign that was because it was the first time doing it. But yeah,
Exactly.
since that, it never again.
Could you imagine?
It's never. I can imagine it happened.
It happened.
But I mean,
This is
yeah,
real life.
it never happened again. And and at that time, yeah, Alex and I, we were sharing a tent. But ever since then, it's been, I've done single tent plenty of times, and we've been all over the place. And it's like
I remember
no
being
issue.
so cold.
It's just
I had to pee
The
so
cold was the
bad,
hard thing
and I was
for
like,
me.
I'm not getting out of this tent. And I was spooked. I was not getting out of that tent that night.
I was
Yeah.
freezing.
I will say I was cold too. I mean,
were
you had to have
unprepared.
been a lot colder
Yeah.
for sure.
I was so cold.
Fife, you asked the question right in the beginning where it was how has backpacking changed since the year that we've been doing the podcast or since the year that we've almost recorded this specific episode.
Yeah.
And I actually pulled the notes up. We tracked the psychology episode on the 17th of May.
okay. Pretty
And
Hey, my birthday.
Oh, no.
oh,
yeah.
that's right. It
Okay,
was your
sure,
birthday.
right.
That's right.
Hold on.
I forgot.
So
Yeah.
I remember that specifically because we recorded two of my favorite episodes of
Yeah.
year one that day. The morning, or not the morning. The first episode was the first freeze dried.
Yeah.
We had
was
a
that really?
charcuterie cake.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And then we
Charcuterie
did
cake.
our first psychology.
That's right.
episode.
So
two
we
of my
did
favorite
we did it on your
episodes.
It was a good
birthday.
day.
That's completely right. I completely
So
forgot about all of that happening.
much circle meat.
Circle meat.
Circle
A lot of
meat.
Circle meat.
But I think so. I know I kind of prefaced this before we got together and had the discussion of the podcast how real I was going to get with this, and I haven't been very public about it at all. And I'm starting to now, but about a month before we tracked this episode, I had a very tragic thing happen in my life where I lost my brother, and you ask like, how did backpacking change for me? We had a trip scheduled on the books for about a month after it happened.
Was
I
it a
think.
month before that episode? Just to
Yeah,
I'm
think
trying to put myself
was-
into
yeah.
place. Okay. it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I was like, I'm gonna go on this backpacking trip regardless. Like I'm gonna, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a lot of shit that I had to go through. I mean, obviously, as you do, as you lose somebody.
Yeah.
But that trip changed how I thought about almost everything. And it was a harder trip. We went to Mount Mitchell for that trip.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was just three of us that went on the trip. It would have been. I feel like it would have been great if more people were able to go. At least for me, selfishly, because I was going to be around more of my friends. Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
But there's a few things that happened to me while I was on that trip. That one in particular that happened the last day that we were hiking out. We were crossing a river. And I think Alex, you and Greg had already been across, and I just I don't even know if you guys noticed it happening, but I kind of stood out there a little bit. There was a rock right in the middle of the river there, and I stood out there, and the water wasn't moving very fast. I had this sense in this very big feeling. I thought about my brother a lot. I thought about all this anger and all this pain that I had and stuff. And it was really eating me inside. And I don't know what it was, but I felt like I needed to kneel down. So I knelt down and I kind of touched this rock that I was on. I felt the water, and it was weird how this rush of just nature pulls into your body. And I grabbed a rock and I was feeling this wet rock, and I don't know what made me do it, but I threw it as far as I could. And as I was doing that, I released all this anger and all this hate that I had and all this pain, and I felt so much better afterwards. I wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But
it had something. It meant something in that moment.
It did mean something. And then also, while that trip was going on, it was a hard trip. We were climbing up a lot of elevation and stuff like that. And the process of overcoming pain and overcoming discomfort, that helped a lot too. And I think the big thing that I got out of that trip, or just the other trips that we did throughout the year, was being connected and being grounded to nature itself really kind of saved my mind mentally, and really being out there with you guys really saved because I honestly, I don't know what I would have done without that part of it.
Yeah.
And it's been such a huge part of my life in healing. And I'll go out into the woods and trail run. I've been trail running a lot more since that happened, because I feel differently than I do while I'm on the road running. I'll go out and do day hikes. I'll do a hike during lunch and then come back. It didn't matter the time period that I've been outside. It's just getting out there and grounding myself and feeling the wind and feeling the sun and being out and hearing the birds and stuff. And it has been such a life-changing thing to have in my life. And I'm so thankful that we started this whole thing before this tragedy I had, because I'm not really sure how I would have dealt with all of it.
It's been a safe place for you to really just go kind of hash your thoughts out, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned something in that jumped out at me insanely, was the idea of offering up something to suffering with a purpose. And and I think about that a lot when we're out, especially on the really hard trips. Is that's and regardless of your religion or anything, but it's that's a very to offer up your own pain to something is a really deep thing, and to know you're going to go into something hard and saying I'm doing this for your brother, or I'm doing this for my family, or I'm doing this for a loved one that I lost, or whatever. It's so it kind of takes it applies a purpose to the hard thing you're doing, and you're saying this pain is not pain for pain's sake. It's not just because it's fun. It's not just because I'm out here with friends or whatever. I'm actually applying it to something useful, and it gives it a purpose. And that's gotten me through some stuff. Or at least maybe not through some stuff, but it's given me a reason to do the really hard thing and not just for the hard thing's sake. Right. So Linville comes to mind for me, where we've talked about that trip and it kicked my ass. But it's like, it made me search for a reason to do it.
Right.
Because it was hard. And it's like, I have to give myself some motivation behind this other than I'm out here. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what, maybe you found out there is like you're offering things up.
Right.
For, your brother or for you, or your ability to heal through that.
And I liked what you said about like wanting to feel grounded in it.
Yeah.
It's funny when talking about this just now and thinking about it. One thing that I love about backpacking is that it can be a little complicated as far as like our planning and the gear that we think about and bring and how we're going to, cook our food and do our hikes and plan our trip. But in a sense, it's one of the most primitive things that we do.
Yeah.
It's the simplest, most primitive, thing that takes us back to, what we naturally want to do and naturally want to do. And Absolutely. I love that idea of feeling grounded. Because we've talked about this in the previous episode that we did this, disconnecting and going out there to simplify things, and as complicated as some of it could be, and why you need to know what you're doing when you're going out there. I love the simple aspect of it and keeping things, keeping yourself grounded and thoughtful on the things that you want to be thoughtful on.
I think the intention, man, I think
intention's a good word.
Yes. There's I also think too, like, the more you allow yourself when you're out there to accept just everything that the woods, the animals, just everything that is out there in nature, accepting nature for what it is. And I think the second you allow that to kind of come in, stuff happens, man. And it's weird, man. Like, I don't know if I may have told you guys this story, but not on the podcast, I don't think. Like, the day after my brother passed away, I saw a cardinal out my window, and I don't usually see cardinals outside at my house. But it was the fucking reddest cardinal I've ever seen. It was so vibrant, and I was just sitting on my couch. It was in the morning. I just woke up from a really terrible night of sleep. And I looked out my window, and this cardinal and I were just staring at each other for like minutes, like not moving. It was so bizarre. And at that moment I was like, that's my fucking brother right there. Yeah, right. Like he's like coming out, he's just watching me, just like checking up. And like, since that happened, I've had more encounters with cardinals throughout the entire year. I just had an encounter a couple days ago, and it doesn't even have to be like a live cardinal. Like, I was out in Fort Wayne, Indiana for a work trip at a restaurant, and I turn around and there's a cardinal lamp right behind me. And it's like that kind of shit. So like, I feel like
those signs are popping up.
Yeah. But like, when you open yourself up to that kind of thing, like, I just feel like nature has its way of kind of like embracing you.
Yeah.
So I on the episode that we did before, almost a year ago, I talked about Shinrin-yoku, and since then I've read a book about Shinrin-yoku, and I've actually gone and done a practice. And my first practice that I went to, it was the most exhilarating thing I've ever done, and it was, I think, doing that practice has actually changed the way I go and do backpacking and how I accept everything around me in the nature to kind of just be one with it. And it kind of sounds, a little hippy dippy and that kind of thing. But like, I really do 100% think that there's some truth behind that, because again, we go out and we're out individually, and we take 45 minutes to just either walk or sit and meditate, or just be in the woods by yourself without anyone around you. And so I chose to go off into the woods, go off the path, and go towards a river. And I sit down right on the bank, and I close my eyes, and I'm just chilling for 15 minutes. And your mind kind of drifts in and out. And as I'm doing that, I hear a pitter-patter above me, circling around my head. And I look up after I open my eyes, and it is a cardinal. And the cardinal is coming around me, and I look above me, because it literally stopped right above me. I had sat down directly above that nest. Like that kind of thing. Like I think that would have never happened to me if I didn't try to do this practice. That would have never. I would have never got that experience.
You gave yourself the opportunity to you made space for it
without getting the opportunity. Absolutely right.
When you said it with like the openness, so I think when we go out, there's an unintentional, just a natural part of going into the outdoors is you're opening yourself up to things happening.
Right.
And in our day-to-day lives, we're closed up. Like we're so busy with just the stuff that we have to do.
You're multitasking like crazy.
Oh, dude.
You're driving. You stop at a stoplight. You pick your phone up. Oh, I got an email. Yeah. Like you don't do that shit when you're out in the woods.
Yeah, you're watching a TV show and watching
on your phone
at the same time.
Or
it's like,
or you're trying to get one kid together and getting them dressed and doing the one, and then you're getting one other
the
breakfast.
Doesn't want to put their shoes on.
Or that. And the other one's running around with no pants on, like spreading his butt cheeks apart. You're like, dude, what are you doing?
I don't know what's going on at your house.
There's so much.
Two boys.
That's what's happening.
So much multitasking that you do in your life.
It's so wild. I think we've talked about this, maybe not on the podcast, but just think about, and then I have another quote. I'm so happy this came up. But how often do you think about your day? How many minutes of your day do you have that are just down minutes?
Right.
Not much.
Yeah, we've mentioned that.
Not much.
We have.
And so,
how many minutes of your day are down minutes that you actually allow
intentionally
to be down minutes?
Dude,
because
very minimal.
Any minutes that are actually open, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I just fill it with useless shit.
Okay,
it's
I'm on
terrible.
my phone or whatever. It's awful.
Before you say what you're going to say, I was going to say this for later on, but that point is exactly what I wanted to kind of touch on. It's we all get the same amount of time in a day. We all get 24 hours.
Yep.
That's the day. You can't make more time.
Doesn't go,
But what you can do is you can create more value in the time
efficiency
that you have.
in how you use that time.
And I think to tie it into backpacking, it's like you have this full year. And so I choose to do 3 weekends or 3 trips out of that whole year in order to create more value for myself, because I'm a different person every single time I come back off the trail.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Every time.
It's crazy to think that that's when you talk about how much value you get out of it.
Yeah.
There's 52 weekends in a year.
Right.
You choose 3. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
Like, I mean, and I'm not like dogging it. I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is something that has such a profound impact. I think about things I do weekly that have an impact on my life, right?
Yep.
And this is one of them that I don't necessarily do weekly, but, having the podcast connects me to it in a different way and gets me excited about it. But, 3 times a week,
to be able to go out and do the thing.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And that's, I think, the challenge, like everyday life gets in the way, and we all make space for it when we can, and that's it. Just goes to show how busy people are as humans.
And what's that's so funny that you mentioned that. So recently, I don't know if you guys have had to do this, but this isn't a parenting podcast, it's a backpacking podcast, but it's relevant. I had to explain that concept to my daughter, who's 7 now, and as I'm explaining it, I'm realizing how awful I am at it, of like prioritizing the right things and taking advantage of time that you have. And it was something for her. It was as simple as like, hey, when you get home, you should go read and do your homework first, because then later, when you're like right now you're asking me to watch TV and I have to say no because you haven't done this other stuff.
Right.
So if you do that first, then at night, like you and I can watch TV together and we can do what you want to do.
Kids are humbling.
And I'm like saying that, and inside I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst person.
I don't do that myself.
Well, my kid hit me the other day with, Dad, maybe before you say the thing, you should think about what you're saying before you say it. Nice. I told him, I was like, dude, all your friends go to this. And he goes, well, not all my friends. My one friend doesn't. I'm like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, well, no, technically you're right. It's not all your friends. All your friends won't be there. Yeah. And it's like, damn, man, he just hit me with his like right in the face. Shit, dude, you're right.
Yeah, kids have a way of doing that.
So it's funny. So I've been kind of going through an experiment similar to this over the past like 3 weeks now. So I I personally don't practice Lent, but my wife does, so I kind of do Lent with her, right? And so for this year, I've always picked little
sounds
things.
a lot like you do Lent.
Well, whatever. I do Lent with her. I participate in Lent with her, and every year I pick something different, and this year I decided to do social media, so I deleted some social media off my phone, and it's been interesting because the first couple days, I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this before.
Yes,
but the first couple days I'm like checking the weather app.
Yeah, you're finding ways to check time.
I'm like fiddling on my phone and realizing that, whoa, this has a stranglehold on me, because like, holy shit, I'm pressing the space Instagram used to be on my phone, and nothing's there. It's like, it's weird, right? And so like, it's been better, obviously, because I don't have it. I'm not, looking at my phone, fiddling around as much, but it is interesting to do that, because I'm not doing it for like this whole thing of like, oh, you do social media is horrible, get off of it, no one should be on it, anything like that. Like, I'll probably be back on it, when Lent's over, because I'd miss my sports and I miss my news. I miss you guys, sending me stupid memes that I get to laugh at. I know I'm gonna have like 900 when I open it up.
There's been some dumb ones.
Sure, of course, I expect that, right? But talking about it in this concept of what you want to prioritize and everything like that, it's kind of been a nice reprieve to kind of clear my mind and realize that I don't absolutely need it, because I thought I was going to miss so much that I was going to be like fear of missing out. There's so much that I'm going to like want to catch up on and want to see and all this news, and I really don't miss that.
When I deleted Facebook years ago, I was really nervous about that, thinking like, oh man, but so-and-so's going to... It was the best thing I ever did. Yeah. So
it's and I think we do that every time we go on a backpacking trip. We do a miniature version of that because we're not checking that.
Yeah, this is a great segue. So in that same email, I can't believe this is coming up. I sent them to myself today for this reason though. One of the other thoughts in this email that I follow is, and we'll relate it to backpacking. The reason people get good ideas in the shower is because it's the only time during the day when most people are away from screens long enough to think clearly. The lesson is not to take more showers, but rather to make more time to think. And so I thought about that. I'm like, well,
that's
mind blowing. It's awesome.
Wow.
But think about it. You're in the shower. You aren't taking your device in the shower. You literally are void of everything other than you're just in the shower.
Yeah.
Can I tell you?
The concept of shower thoughts is older than screens. The idea is the same.
Is you put yourself in a time where you're alone and away from things that are a normal day.
I have an almost real time, it happened today, example of this, where...
You don't take showers.
I was at work, finishing up work. I had something that took me right up until 5 o'clock. And it ended with a problem that I had a good idea of how to solve. And my brain was starting to work on it. And it was like end of day. I'm like, all right, I have to close up, whatever. But
I have to turn it off.
Right. So, but at 4:45, it was like problem initiated. And by 5, I was like, my gears were working, but I had to step away. Just in the 15 or 20 minutes of like getting away, and I did something monotonous. I went down and I loaded the dishwasher, or I did something that took no brain power at all, and like taking a shower, but I wasn't on a screen. I didn't distract myself with something,
and it came to you clear as fucking day.
It was just like I could see everything written out. I'm like, when I sit down again, this is exactly how it's going to look.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I still have it in my head. I'm just like, it's done. The work is done. Yeah, I figured it out.
You solved it. Yeah,
right.
I will say, and I've been a creative designer for 15 years now. The best ideas don't happen in front of the computer. They never do. They happen on your walk around the building. Walk out to get lunch.
If I had
never happened.
If that had happened at 3:45 and I had another hour of work, I would have lost it completely.
But you wouldn't have solved it. You would have just been tinkering on it. And
I would have gotten taken into something else. I would have started another problem.
The time didn't exist.
Right. It would have, and then I would have had to revisit it from scratch the next day.
Yeah.
But it's done.
That's why I love the backcountry for solving problems.
Oh, yes.
100%.
You take your problems out there.
I was just going to say the same thing. And it's also the same reason why, and it's the same effect that I get when I go swim.
Yeah.
There's nothing you do other than you get from one point to the other, back and forth. There's no phone. There's no screen. There's nothing. It's just you, and that's it. You can barely hear.
Yeah.
So you're literally taking everything away. And you're right, Austin. It's the same exact thing that I get when I go out into the backcountry, because there's no phone. There's no service. There's no connection. It is you and the moment you're in right this second. And that's it. And I think that is my favorite thing about backpacking is it is the moment you're currently in, period.
Yeah, and dude, there's so I could talk about that for an hour. And I think I said it on our road trip episode, but you hash things out there, man.
Yeah.
Things get solved when there's no distractions. When you're not in the heat of your day, right? You're not, I just got home from a busy day of work. Let's talk about something serious. Like, dude, that's hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to, right? You have to go through your
You have to be an
conversations.
adult still.
Yeah, you
Right.
have to be an adult. But man, when you can just, and I think that is my favorite part of, that in community. It's like you really have, it's time and the ability to really just think things through with the given attention that they deserve. I've solved so many business problems out in the trail, life problems. I mean, it's just.
And what's amazing is it
insane.
doesn't regardless of the type of thinker you are, the type of learner or whatever. It's the same for everybody. So I think of things in a very mathematical, structured way. I'm not a creative in that sense.
You're like Alan from The Hangover and at the poker table.
Yeah, Rich is just going through.
I think the way I think about things and solve problems as compared to you, Alex, is probably night and day. But it's you put us both in that situation, or we're out there and just have the ability to think. It's it's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're gonna solve our problems in the way that we solve them because we have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Even though we're completely different in how we approach those things, which I think is awesome. Because it's we get to do it as a group and get the benefit of being together doing it, but we're all solving our own world hunger-sized
we
problems.
have our own thing that we're
internally.
Yeah, collectively we have a mission and things that we're working on, but on our own we have our own thing that we're working out. There's a shared goal, and honestly, I've never been afraid about bringing these scenarios. Not with every issue, but I like bringing stuff to you guys a lot of times. Hey, I've got this thing going on. What do you guys think? This is interesting.
Yeah.
Or at least sharing with you maybe something that's going on in my life that's interesting and how to go about it. That happens even during podcasting off mic moments where we do that, and it's nice to do that. But because I can trust you guys, and I know, even if not everything's going to get solved, I'm going to get some good tidbits from you guys.
And the beauty of that, Austin, and I think it's a good reminder of leaning in on your relationships is you're never alone.
Oh, for sure. I dealt with a lot.
You don't have to solve anything by yourself.
I dealt with a lot of pride early on in my adulthood where I was like, no, I get this figured out. I know how to do this. I can do this. And, mentioning something or asking for advice is not a failure. It is growth.
It's a strength.
It's a strength. Yeah. And
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, and I gotta, every single time I have doubt about it, and then I do say something and something positive comes from it, I'm always man, I need to remember this as soon as I have the problem.
Yeah,
I could waste a lot of mind muscle trying to figure it out.
And go even further than that. You've mentioned this, Alex, before, maybe in a different way, but it's not even you may not intentionally reach out and say, hey, I need your advice on something, but in doing this together and seeing everyone else solve their own little problems and do the things, I've gotten so much from you guys on just observing how you react in situations, and it's and then I can
do this.
adapt to that, and then use those tools. And I've never even said anything to you
for sure.
It's just
100%. Yeah,
it's amazing. So I think, especially with the group aspect and how we do it, I get a lot out of that. But it's just it's proximity. It's proximity to things happening, and then it's osmosis almost.
I have another practice that I've been doing over the past few months, and it's not just with you guys; it's with other friends that I have too. So
you have other friends?
How dare you? Every time you say your other friends, I'm like, man.
So
how do we have time for this?
I have been trying this practice for a while, and I've really liked it because it's not just necessarily about finding an answer, it's about the relationship. So rather than, like, let's say there's something that I want to know that I'm trying to do, like whether it's like a cooking technique or maybe I'm struggling with something with running, rather than strictly going to Google, I'm going to my friends and asking, hey, has anybody dealt with this?
That.
Has anybody owned one of these, and what do you think about it? I need some advice with this. And
the answer is gotta always be better.
well, it's funny because it's always better, or at least it's more entertaining, right? So like,
Right.
Fair.
Because, like, how do I explain this? So, there's a little bit of like humility that comes into it because anybody can just be like, "Well, just Google it." Like, oh, you don't know this? Just Google it or something like that. And that's not about that. I know I can Google it.
Yeah,
it's not about Googling it. I know that Google's probably going to give me a better answer than what you're going to give me.
Well, it'll give you a fact rather than an opinion.
And this may be a bit tangential, but it's like, is it?
Well, no.
Because I think, like, and I've kind of come to realize this a bit is social media and Google and everything is good, but I treat it as a dictionary now at this point.
Sure, yeah.
It's for the truly factual, like this either happened or it didn't.
No, right.
But when it comes to, like, if you go and you type in 5 best packs for backpacking, you're gonna get a full page of sponsored shit that's gone through so much. But like, I'd rather talk to you and say, what do you love?
100%.
It's like ULA.
Absolutely.
I'd love to
Let's
try
take something like this. So like, this is just a random thought. Like, hey, what's the best way to clean my cast iron skillet? Right. I could Google that and give me like 5 tips in order to do that. Or I can ask my friend that I know uses a cast iron skillet all the time and be like, hey, how do you clean yours? And they can give me the answer. And not only it's fun to talk about the things that you have and give people advice. I know that they're enjoying it, because if somebody came to me and asked me for advice, I'd be like, hell yeah, dude, this is 1,000%. Oh,
what's your favorite coffee, right?
Yeah.
Like, which one have you been jamming on lately?
Yeah, you're interested in backpacking? Oh, running, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'll throw up in your lap all the information that I know. I love talking about stuff. I would love for somebody to do that to me.
Instead of a random blogger.
Yeah,
but
it's the human connection.
Yeah, it's the connection.
Yeah.
It is the connection.
Because you're not going to, and that's what I was going to say, you're not going to text, like, any one of you text me and ask me a question, it wouldn't just be like, cool, conversation over.
Right.
It doesn't just end. Like,
never.
Your conversations aren't in a vacuum like that. And that, to me, and again, we f***ing at length in backpacking about our community, right? Community. And just being around people and meaningful conversations. And dude, here's how I would clean my cast iron skillet. Like, what are you doing today? How's your day going? What are you thinking about? Like, what's on your mind, right? Like, those are the kinds of things that they make you susceptible to opportunity that otherwise, like, Google's never going to give you that. The only thing Google's going to give you is, okay, here's the answer, and then it's going to send you to like Lodge, their like article about how they do theirs as a brand, and then you'll f*** around and find something else to waste time on.
It's the Family Feud. It's the Family Feud version of everything. It's just going to be what most people are talking about online at that time.
Right.
It's like that could be completely not what you're looking for.
As somebody who fits people for good shoes for a living, those lists like make me so angry, because it's like clearly they're sponsored.
And they're opinion pieces.
And not to say that they're bad shoes that they're suggesting. There's just like the right shoe for the right foot, and that shoe might not be right for your foot.
Right.
And so you're going to put it on, and if you tell me you hate it, well, sorry.
But a true
sorry
opinion,
you listen to this.
A true opinion
article.
piece with nothing else behind it is great, but it's much better if it comes from someone you know.
But you still have to formulate your own opinion at that point and gather your own facts. I mean, let's face it. Anybody listening to the four of us fucking jackasses talking about backpacking, we're not fucking experts, and that's what's enjoyable about this.
But
right?
what's awesome is that
we're providing information that's not necessarily factual.
Yeah.
But what's really cool,
true.
I hope, and I think based on some of the feedback we've gotten, I think this is true. But I would hope that, like, those who listen to the podcast and have done so for a decent amount of time, hearing it from us isn't the same as hearing it from a random blogger online who has sponsors and gets paid for it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I'm not trying to influence anybody.
Right.
This is just
I'd
my
rather
thoughts.
I mean, that's Austin's point. It's like I'd rather listen to someone who I know, or who I know is into that hobby or into that thing, or who uses a cast iron skillet or whatever the thing is. Or hopefully for us is that listen to someone who is just into the thing and loves it, and that's the only motivation, as opposed to just going to a database of like, well, here's, a bunch of data points that kind of point to generally what you're talking about.
I'm going to challenge you guys here in this room that at some point in the next couple days, instead of Googling something that you want to know,
It's a great idea.
to text us,
Yeah.
like our group. I mean, you could text other people, I guess, too, if you want to find out. Like,
I'm going
if
to ask
know.
you just like a very factual, like, what's the definition of this word?
Yeah, right. How do you spell Gagarshman?
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
And you're going to be like, go to Google.
Yeah.
Good one. I think that would be a fun practice for us to try out.
I
No,
think
totally
that's
agree.
that's a great idea, and not like just with our group, but it's a good reminder to lean on your experts and the people that that are good at things and those specific skill sets. And in business, it's like relating it to your network, right?
I was going to say,
I
build your
love
network.
networking,
Yeah.
and I love like connecting people. I mean, we had a serendipitous moment with someone you met that I know at a company, and like it's insane, right?
That's kind of the example I was thinking of, where I was like, I almost like didn't say anything, and then it ended up, and this is we don't have to dive into it on mic, but like, I'm glad I said something, and I almost didn't, because I was like, it doesn't matter, but it did.
Yeah, and connections are real, and like
So-
everyone, we all have networks of people that know different things and do different things, which is so
and
profoundly cool.
there's different types of connections, because we are as a country, or as a race, more connected than ever in terms of technology.
Yes.
But what type of connection are you really after, right? So you can sit in a padded room and never have human contact with anybody and be quote unquote connected. Or you can be what Austin's talking about, where it's like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find physical, actual people that I know and I can like learn from, and
help me solve it.
And bringing it back, we do that on the greatest level when we go out and commune in the backcountry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we trust each other. I trust you guys. I love you guys. It's just
100%.
Right back at
that
you.
connection and that, that friendship is everything. And yeah.
And that extends to obviously all the guys that go with us. And we've met just people out. I mean, and like even in brief conversations, we always joke about your brother, Alex, about Mike is just strike up a conversation with anybody.
Gosh, yeah.
But I mean, just people out and had a 5-minute conversation with
How does that
someone
make
out
you feel?
there.
Yeah.
Dude, think about
Yeah, and it's like
think about the
just
groups of
connections,
ladies
man.
that we met on the top of one of the peaks over at Mount Mitchell.
Dude,
there were 8 of them. They were all high school friends, all coming together
That's
to do this
awesome.
whole thing.
It's nuts.
I didn't know
And-
that. You didn't tell me about that. I didn't know about that.
And they took pictures with each other. We took pictures of them. They took pictures of us. We talked to
What?
them a little bit. Like
That's
you
awesome.
you end up creating this fond memory, and I think I it's so stupid, but it's not. But like
It's not, dude.
I made this photo book of our first trip. And in like page 3 or whatever, it's a picture of us that Alex took of Austin, Pfeiffer, and I at the omelet shop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yummy.
And I started thinking about that moment. It was before the trip, and I started thinking about like, man, I think about that omelet shop a lot, and like also we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And like
The shoppy.
Every
The
time
shopping-
I drive
yeah,
down
spelled
77,
S-
I see it, and
you
I'm
see it.
like stoked about it.
SHOPPE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like-
Why do I care?
But like I wrote a few things down in this photo book, and I'm gonna do this for each year that we do trips, just to kind of have a memory of it and relive some moments, and then be able to share this with my kids and be able to share it with my wife. And like I think I wrote something at the omelet shop. It's like, it doesn't have to be this like grandiose moment where it's like this life-changing thing to have an impact. It can be just a random stop at a diner.
We've
that
had moments
provides
at gas
memories.
stations.
I was gonna
gas
say.
stations
Yeah,
on
dude.
the trail. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this huge life-changing thing. It can be something small, but it can bring you so much joy that you continue to think about after for years and years and years and years.
And
Yeah.
I'd go even further, and I'd say that like sometimes the more you try to make it a grandiose thing, it's like, oh, I want this to be a memory.
Well, and the harder,
less likely
the harder
it's
it
gonna happen.
becomes to happen too,
Right.
right? It's the same with like planning something with a group, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to like up and up and up like the stakes, but it's like when in reality, the lowest stake it would be fine, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
So-
think of like it's outside of backpacking, but when Alex and I we did that half marathon, I think, but we stayed at the Days Inn.
Yeah.
And it's like we stayed at the shittiest motel you could possibly
Oh my
think
gosh.
of.
And how much joy we've gotten
We
from
had
that.
the worst room, and we're surrounded there must have been 8 drug deals happening in that parking lot. Our door didn't lock. The walls were
bad.
yellow. It was
we
the
slept
worst.
on top of our beds.
God.
On top
Where
of
was
on
this?
the
at
blankets
the Days Inn in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh my God.
And we
And the Y on the sign was out. It was the DOS Inn.
The omelet shopping, the Dawson.
Right.
I love it.
We
Yeah.
slept on top of the comforters because we didn't trust the beds.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
was
like
bad.
to this
Real
day,
bad.
that's one of those core memory things.
Ugh,
It's like,
so dumb. I
love
Dawson,
that.
baby, and
So-
it's amazing.
So, Brian, you said it like you talk about those women on the trail. Like Allison and I this week, we got a postcard in the mail from our friends in Canada.
Oh, did you
Hell
really?
yeah.
And
Awesome.
I'm like,
awesome.
dude, I was like rifling through the mail, as you do, and it's mostly bullshit. And then I see this, like, I forget where they were, but it's just a trails postcard, and I'm like, man, I know where this. I know who sent this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's upstairs. We have it on the counter, and I was, sitting on the ledge because it's just a fun reminder of like a memory, and it's like just the connections that happen. It's just like, holy shit, man. We talk to them every day.
I think
That's amazing.
I think the coolest thing that you can do is just create memories, create experiences.
Just
do
do.
the things.
Yeah, do.
No
Just
matter
do
what
the
the
things.
scale of it is.
Yeah.
Just do.
Yeah. I guess to wrap this up, and we can continue to talk about this whole thing for hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours.
I'm sure we'll have a part 3.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
have a part 3. There's just so much that I can say about my mental health while I'm on the trail and how it impacts me, and how you guys impact me. And I'm thankful for the 3 of you. I'm thankful for all the guys that we have on the trip with us.
Absolutely.
Every single one of you changes me in a more positive way.
Oh,
And
I'm
very
for sure.
thankful for
Yeah.
that.
I'm like just no question a better person.
Yeah. Well, and
Having
Brian,
done all this with you guys.
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that today on Mike.
for
I'm
sure.
sure it's not easy. It's been a tough year, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but we're here for you. And we're
Hell yeah.
happy to
I
have
know.
these experiences.
No,
with
I
you.
appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody listening every week. We really do love you guys, and
Yeah.
we appreciate all the emails and stuff like that. We appreciate the direct messages and Instagram and stuff. If you haven't emailed and you've got a question, or you want to share an experience,
Yeah, I kind of just want to echo that. I think this has I've been thinking that this for a while now, and recently had a conversation with someone who had indicated that the podcast helped them through a difficult time, and
Yeah.
and I want to just also kind of echo, like, thank you to those who do listen, because
Yeah.
those of you that do listen and do care, and this means something to you. I think it only further multiplies the meaning to us.
Yeah,
I know it does
absolutely.
for me. I mean, I think we would be doing this with no listeners, but the fact that there is, there are actual people that connect with this and care, and we see messages, we get emails, and we hear from real people about what this means to
awesome.
you.
Yeah.
It really, it is fuel to keep this going. It is fuel to get outside more, and
Yep.
please know we're excited about the future and what we're about to do, continuing to move forward and produce more information and content for everyone. We're excited, and thank you. Thank you. Just
Thank
from
you.
like literally the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for everything.
And I'd love to add, like, if there's anyone out there who started listening over the past year, or maybe recently, or has done their first sort of experience since listening to us, or if this kind of brought them into the backpacking
Yes.
world or the hiking world, like, tell us about it.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, send us a photo. We'll share
right.
it.
We want to
Absolutely.
know, like, what has it done for you guys? Because it obviously does a lot for us, and we want to share that with everybody.
And if you don't know, the email is trailtheorypod@gmail.com. Again, we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.
Before we go, remember, if you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, you're not alone. Call 988. It's a lifeline. Reach out for help. Your life matters.
The Trail Theory Podcast is sponsored by Audimute and Audio Technica. Music by Dan Koch.